just consider it.
Okay. The Wednesday, October 30th, 2024 meeting of the Gardner City Council Finance Committee will come to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
President Kaczynski?
Present.
Councilor Lowers?
Present.
Councilor Mann?
Present.
Is anyone recording today's meeting? We'll begin with the department head updates, and we'll start right off with human resources. We have Amanda Morse, our human resource director. Come on up.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So basically, you just go ahead and update us on how things are going in the department and what's going on, and that's it.
Sure.
These aren't the mics, so don't worry about these.
Okay, I wasn't even paying attention to that, so it's okay. So overall, I've just been working a lot on updating policies, process. We are starting to look at the senior work incentive tax credit, adding in veterans to that, which you'll see at City Council. So we've been just looking at the application process, how those people are selected. In the past, it's just been the same people who have been doing the program in the past have been selected to do it. I kind of want to change that. There was last year 40 applicants for 20 slots. So I think we're going to go to a lottery system this year, so everyone has an equal opportunity to be involved in the program. Same thing with the swimming pool. I've just been looking next year to look at the process for swim lesson registrations. I think I want to make that a cashless process. Just look at how it's been done. I have been updating all job descriptions as positions open. Our job descriptions are not well written at all different templates, different formats. So as positions open, I have been working with the department heads and the unions. If it's a union position, just putting them all in the same format, reviewing them, making sure the job description fits what they're actually doing. Right now it is medics open enrollment, so I was working on that for a little bit, getting the updated rates. All the letters went out last week. I have received phone calls that people have received the letters, so been working on that. I am working on a wellness initiative. I'm working with Blue. Do you have a question?
No, did the medics rates go up?
They did. Okay. They went up 12%.
That's okay. That's
a wellness initiative with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So we have a $5,000 credit to use throughout the year. So we just sent out a survey. It closed on Friday. I don't have the results yet, but just figuring out how we can use those funds to create wellness programs throughout city employees. So whether it be, a step challenge or online webinars for like healthy eating or cooking. They do in-person like sessions. There's all different things that they offer. So we sent out a survey to see what people would be interested in. So I will be kicking that off once I get the results of those. Yeah, that's like the majority of just the project-based things I've been working on, and then the regular day-to-day things that come up.
Great.
If I could add, Madam President, I know Director Morse has been here about 6 months.
Yeah, I think going on 6.
I've been really impressed with her. The work that she's been doing and updating certain things that's involved with the department or bringing things into just a new perspective, I think it's been really valuable to the city. Just the changes to the job descriptions now when an employee gets hired too, they're required to sign a copy of their job description just like they sign all of the different policies we have. And it's just one of those back and forths to make sure that the person understands what the job actually entails and what's going to be expected and sets that expectation foundation up front for the employee. And we haven't had any issues with it, but it's just something that it's just that extra level of something that wasn't there. I don't think anyone saw their job description other than when they saw the posting on the website before. And it's one of those things that between that and then handling the surprises that have come up along the way that just come from being in an HR role, let alone the health insurance stuff that came up with both medics and Blue Cross and everything else, I think she's really done a tremendous job in the role, and I'm really happy that we have her on the team here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I similarly got an email from the building commissioner just about your performance and something you had helped him with as well, and he went out of his way to do that, so I thought that was pretty awesome. I called the mayor about it.
Thank you.
That's great, to hear. It's you. How many employees do you manage?
1.5
Oh, for my staff?
No, I mean your
Oh.
staff, but also the whole
citywide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,200
Yeah, it's about
between the school and city.
between the school elections.
With, right, and
Yeah.
with the department of,
Yeah.
you have 2 assistants in your office,
One.
1 assistant,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's that, and that, pretty much that type of workload exists in government, I think, and that's probably it. So you definitely have a role in front of you. I appreciate all the updates, this is great to hear. Is there any comments from the committee members?
I just have a couple, even just one of our outside vendors commented to me about, when I was here for the, health, open enrollment, how fortunate we were to have you on staff here and how knowledgeable you were, and what the knowledge you bring in from private industry into the public sector, how important it is. I just, I just think there's so much you can bring into the human resource department here within the city. I'd had the conversation, when we post jobs for the city, just posting the benefits, because the benefit package is huge. I mean, it really supplements some of the pay for people that we really have to market that, because health insurance is a huge benefit as well as other things. And I, overtaking, like the swimming pool, one of the things besides swim lessons, I would love to see us do a cashless passes for family passes for people next year.
I agree.
I think that would be a great option as well. But I just want to, applaud you, because you walked into, a huge position, huge responsibilities, with some surprises that none of us expected, and I think you've done a fabulous job, and that, know that at least I myself as a counselor, we're all here to support you in every aspect of your position, and please don't ever hesitate to reach out, and the welfare committee will actually be having you at a meeting pretty soon, just to give updates on the pool and the disabilities.
Perfect.
Commission.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Just while we have you here, thank you for everything you've been doing. I've heard all the great things that were spoken about already. We do have that item you talked about, the veteran incentive program,
Yes.
the VIPS program. How is that going to, if a senior is a veteran, is it 2 different programs, or is it like a pool? Is it just 10 for the veteran, I believe, the
Yes.
applications will be starting, and then 20 for the VIPS?
Yeah, so we're gonna keep the same 20 for the senior. We haven't determined, so I think if we're going to have 30 slots and say we have only 5 veterans who apply, and then there's 30 people who are not veterans, just seniors, I don't see why we couldn't place the other 5 just in the program. If we're gonna open 30 slots, we should open 30, but 10 will be dedicated toward veterans. Yep, so when they apply, I'll kind of separate the veterans, and
Push
I would
them over
put-
to that pool
exactly.
If there's only going to be 8 or 10.
Exactly,
whatever,
yeah.
So they can get those slots.
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I have nothing further. Is there anyone else? Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll continue with department head updates. The treasurer collector's office.
Jen, Treasurer Jen Dudley did send me an email of a written report. I don't know if she CC'd you on it, but I can email it to you, send it to you, and put it for the minutes.
Okay, so you'll email the treasurer collector's written report.
Yeah,
If we have
she just
questions,
sent
you
me-
go to her directly, and you'll put it in the minutes of this
Yeah,
meeting.
I
Got it.
also need, yeah.
She's on a pre-planned vacation this week.
And to the auditor. I mean, you're at these meetings often enough.
Yeah.
But now this is about you, so you get to tell us whatever you want.
I'm sorry. Well, I was working on free cash, got that certified on October 8th. Came in at 2.6 million, working on another 514,000. It went against our free cash, but we're working on it, and hopefully we'll get that certified within a month or so. So that'll be another 514,000 towards free cash. Then I'm working on the tax recap. Basically everything's in the system, waiting for Monday to certify the tax rate of the one. or split, rate. Once that is, agreed upon, then we submit and that gets certified. Hopefully that'll be certified mid-November, which is pretty much our earliest we've ever done that, which it helps, because it makes the billing process a lot easier. We can get that certified early. And then right after that, I'll be working on the Schedule A, basically getting all that data into the system and submit that by December, beginning of December. It has to be in and submitted to the DOR by the end of the calendar year. Thank you.
And that's DOR's policy, correct?
Yep, exactly. They frown upon that if you don't do that. They hold back grant money and stuff like that. So we make sure we get that submitted. And then working on FY26 budget, starting to work on that. And then what else? Dealing with Blue Cross Blue Shield on the billing side. They're having issues. They changed billing systems in February of this year, and they're trying to push back and saying we owe an extra monthly payment, and they're totally wrong. So basically, I've been dealing with this since September 13th, and they're not budging on their end. I'm not budging on our end. So, and it's significant money. So I'm still pushing. Just a little history with Blue Cross Blue Shield. 2 years ago, they tried to bill us for interest. And what happened is they had one of our payments. It went to a different lockbox. They actually had the money, and they tried to charge us interest. So I fought it. It took me a year to get the money back, but it was $15,000. This issue we're going through is significant. So
A couple million, right?
it's $920,000. So
That's been paid, it just isn't reflected on the statement, so we're just trying to show them like,
it's
here's
their
the money.
billing issues totally, and that's what we're trying to. And then they're saying but I don't want to bore you with the details, but working on that. What else? Also, I should have done this while Amanda was here. I worked with Amanda to make the payroll process paperless. So basically, all new hires, rate increases, and termination paperwork is now done paperless. So all that makes the process streamlined. We don't run into oh shoot, we didn't give this person, or getting them into the system so they're paid on a timely manner. It makes that process a lot better. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the committee?
If I could add, I know the auditor is one of your departments as the city council, but it's been tremendous working with John, and I'm not just saying that because he's in the third year of his appointment. It's just the fact that my job wouldn't be as easy as it is if it wasn't for the work that John collaborated with. I think there's sometimes twice a day, but at least twice a week that I'm calling John and asking a question, just being like, hey, do we have the information on this? Where can I find the information on this? How about, do we start this process now? And he's just got the answers, and it's just one of those departments that you can call and rely on and just get the answer that you need the moment you need it, and however you need it, and then some too, and realize you didn't need the other stuff that he threw in there too until he told you about it. I've been really happy with the work he's done. I think the audits that we've been getting back that have been clean for the last 4 years since I've been here without a finding, or 1 year without a management letter. It was just shows the professionalism he brings to the job, and I've been really happy to work with him.
Thank you. First, be careful calling your job easy, Mr.
I know,
Mayor.
easier than usual. How's that?
But I would say even as a council, we're kind of just used to this at this point, with things just kind of coming through, having the information we need, getting a constant answer. Like, we're very lucky, and I don't want to bring us back to 2020, but I got to know John very well during 2020 because he was one of the only people I talked to pretty much every day, multiple times a day, when all of that FEMA and all of the that money and things became available where we had to account for it really specifically, and you know, all of our budgeting, I mean, people don't realize budget is a 365-day process. The minute one's over, the other one's already started again. It's really important, and I think for the council, you know, it being a position that we oversee, you're readily available, you make things, put things in front of us so that we can understand it and we have it when we need it, or if it's requested, the number's there within, you know, minutes if you're at one of our meetings, or if not. And now we have a former auditor on our city council, so that's also the added pressure, but I know there's a good relationship there, and that's really helpful, and I think that's how things are supposed to work. So I certainly appreciate the work that you do, and you know, a financial piece of the city is one of the biggest things that people look to when they're moving to a new place, when they're gonna remain living in a new place, and when they have something that they have to give their own comments on. You know, a lot of times it's something financially related, so the fact that you can work so well with the mayor's office and we're able to oversee you, I think speaks to the strength of everyone in the government, the department heads, but also your job specifically, because it really is, it's very, very important. So I have, you know, nothing but good feedback. I'm glad to hear about all of the things that you're doing, especially some of the stuff you don't really think about, like the issues you're having with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Like, we wouldn't know that, but you're okay to say it because you're doing your job and you know you're working towards it. You didn't have to offer that today, but knowing that you do and you've had to do things similarly is also, I think it's good information. People know there's a lot to the position, and also having one staff member in your office as well. Is there any other comments or anything to add? I have no questions, so.
Yeah, I don't have any questions, just kind of reiterating what's already said. I don't have a level of mayor or former mayor, or former acting mayor, interactions with you. Anytime I have any questions, I always tell you, you know, it's no rush, and I have it in, you know, half an hour or something. It's already back to me. So I appreciate that, but if you are busy, and I say that, please take your time. And just thank you for what you've been doing.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everything. I appreciate your explanation when I stopped in over the Blue Cross increase for the insurance, because it's just really hard to understand the whole process and with the trust fund and the fund and everything, and you explained that very well. But I think it's important, and I'm glad you brought up what you're dealing with Blue Cross, because, I mean, I can't imagine on your end how frustrating that is, because time is money. And the amount of time that you're spending going back and forth with them, that's time he's taking you away from other things. You know, and you know, I'm sure with, you know, my frustration with Blue Cross is high. I can't imagine what yours is right now. So I think that, you know, at any point that you need reinforcements, you know, whether we have to bring in, you know, the mayor has to go to our, you know, our legal department, I think that's something that has to be considered, because it is costing the city money with the time that you're spending. You know, just constantly going back and forth with them over things that shouldn't even be an issue.
Yep.
So, but I do thank you for everything that you do for the city.
Thank you.
If I could just reiterate what he said before about how we're at the tax rate being earlier than it has been before, and having the hearing at an earlier date than it has been before, and what that means in terms of making things better with the time cost of money that's associated with that too. I'll go back to the days that my father used to work at City Hall. There were days that those bills have to be sent out before January 1. There were days I remember my father being here until like 6 o'clock on New Year's Eve, because the hearing was held later at a later date, and then you have to get everything through the system the right way, the bills printed, stuffed, and sent out the right way, and everything like that. So getting this done actually makes it so that we can pre-plan all of that ahead of time and actually save time on the road, because when you're rushing to get everything done at that last moment in time, you're going over hours, you're paying overtime to employees and everything like that, it really is helpful, not only just for our cash flow, but the peace of mind that we can just get it done the right way the first time.
Well, and on that note too, I do appreciate the communication over the last couple of years, because we've talked about it since I've been in this position as council president. We've talked about how important that deadline, that 12/31 deadline is for that, and we purposely tried to make it so that we could set it as early as possible. It's also for morale for the staff. Like, they have enough going on. It also makes so there isn't mistakes, because people aren't rushing around to do things, and it is part of our job as the city council. Like, we hold that hearing, you know, and so if you can get us what we need, you know, we have the information from you that we need, we can have the hearing, we can make the decision, and things can get rolled out so then the staff can do their piece. Like, it's different branches and people have different responsibilities, but it's all working together. And, you know, as counselors, that's our piece of it, but we need to be prepared to do it just as the staff needs to be prepared. So knowing that, I think we've been able to push it earlier each year, but this is definitely the earliest that it's been, and it still isn't it's not really being pushed in a way, it's just being prepared enough and having the wherewithal to say, hey, we're gonna plan for this differently in the future, and it's worked out every year, pretty much in the last couple of years that way. So it's good to know, because again, you just don't, in the end, it all goes back to all of us, the way things get done in the end, so, and I know also when we have our informal meeting on the TAC for the, not informal meeting, I'm sorry, the tax hearing, the mayor will give a little bit more of a presentation this year, as you and I talked about, just on what those options are and how that works, and I think that's another effort this year going into it, where we had said, you know, we really need to make sure the public has that information, moving on in the future, because I don't think they really realize what goes into a single versus, you know, split tax rate, and so that will be helpful for the council, as well as for the public, and understanding what we make our decisions and what we base them off of too. So I have nothing further. If there's anything further from the committee members. Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you.
Okay, item 11289, an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Gardner, Part 1 thereof, entitled Administrative Legislation. So at our last City Council meeting, all of the councilors were given a copy of version 7.
Yes.
Okay, and so everybody has that. I mean, it was in the packet as well. We just had it printed so that it was, you know I'd work better with a thick document looking at it, so we kind of did that as a courtesy, but it's been available through all of the versions to the council, to the public, for people to look at, and so knowing that we're going to do an informal meeting on this as well, I think we should obviously ask for more time at this point, because that's what we're going to have an informal meeting on it. It will not be before this Monday's meeting. I anticipate it will be before the 2nd November meeting. So I just wanted your thoughts on that.
I 100% agree. I think we should, this is hopefully pretty close to the final version, if not the final version. We want to make sure we have it right, and we only had it for just over a week now at this point, so give everyone time to continue to review it, all the other councils review it, have the informal meeting, see if there's any questions or concerns, and then hopefully tie this up and finish, pass it.
Yeah, I appreciate everything about the process for this, so thank you again to your office and everyone who's been looking and working on it, but I think this being the most final-ish version of it, I'd like some more time to observe. I think the more eyes on it, the better, also just because the point of this is to clean things up and to make it streamlined, so we don't want errors in it, and I think the more eyes you have on it, the more time they have to catch things or ask questions about it before we do have our informal. So I do anticipate that meeting before the 2nd meeting in November for the City Council, and so at this point we'll ask for more time. Okay.
I agree.
Item 11407, a measure authorizing a 5-year contract for school transportation services. We have Director Cormier here. Did you want to join us up here?
If you need me.
Sure, come on, just in case we need you. So this is pretty standard from the last couple of contracts that we typically receive, you know, around this time of year or from the summertime. Is there anything that you wanted to explain about it, Director Cormier?
Not really. It's just there have been spotty requests lately, so sorry that you've gotten so many. Typically we try to do them at the end of the year. This one was initiated by the school department, who wants to start this process early. The current transportation contract ends at the end of this fiscal year, so there is some time. The idea is to look at a 3+2 contract, so 3 years plus a renewal for 2. So yeah, it's at the initiation of the school. They just pessimistically have also offered the note that to expect about a 20% increase, even if it is a 5-year contract. I don't know if that's true, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
The transportation costs since 2019 when this was first entered into.
Yeah, we negotiated, we did this in 2019, and we actually, right before the world shut down, had this pretty much review go on. So the plan is to put it out on November 6th, available to the public, and then to have it due on the 12th of December, I think is the plan right now, 12th or the 13th, that week. There are about 11 projects right now in my office in some form of the bid process, so I'm trying to push this one a little later because it doesn't expire until the end of the fiscal year.
And you mentioned the history of it, so this 3+2, is this how, so this is not how it's been done, or this was how it was done?
This was how it was done, and we got the 5-year approval last time to do this as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, most contracts in a 5-year situation aren't for the full 5 years. It's the initial 3 and then the option to extend for an additional 2 after that. But anytime we add the option to go over that 3, that's what needs council approval.
And just, Dan, for reiteration, kind of for the public too, once you get to the 3 and you decide for the 2, are we authorizing you to just
Yes.
to look at the 2?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what we've done in the previous ones. We did similar to this very recently, actually.
And just because you approve it doesn't mean that it has to, we'll have to do the initial 3, but if something
It is the
happens,
option.
we have the option to not do the additional 2. So it's solely at the discretion of the city. That's the way the contract is written.
Is it 3-2 or is it 3-1-1?
This one would be,
So authorize the option, would it just?
I think the last one was 3+2.
Okay.
But we do have some contracts that are 3+1+1.
I think the grant one,
Yeah.
last time
Yeah.
was 3-1-1.
Yeah, yes. So we do mix it. This one I think was 3+2, but I can double check it.
Okay.
Either way, we'll exceed 3, but we won't exceed 5.
Correct.
So.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments from the committee?
If I could add,
Mr. Mayor?
thank you, Madam President. I do want to say thank you too for your patience in dealing with these as they've come up piecemeal recently. But like the Director Cormier said, we do try to get as many of them consolidated together as we can at the beginning of the fiscal year. But it's the stuff that just comes up along the way, like this one. I got a request from the police chief for one at your next meeting for body cams next week. That came in at 4:30 last night, so we'll talk about that after. But I appreciate the collaboration with them too, and it does make things a lot easier for the department heads and just on our end in planning out these contracts budgetarily. Thanks for how you've been handling these rather than all at once like we normally do, just throughout as they come up.
Sounds like all at once for you isn't the greatest anyway, for being able to handle all the bids coming at the same time, and the staggering might be easy for you guys.
It's not the worst thing.
I don't think it's a heavy lift on our side to take them
I know, I was
spread
looking
out.
at them. If anything, I just got a little confused at the last council meeting because I was like, wait a minute, I think we were used to doing it this way, and I second guessed myself, which I shouldn't have done, but it's fine, like we do our job as we get them, as long as we have the information and that's, to me, that's, as long as it doesn't affect the city negatively or if it should be changed, then change it, but if it doesn't need to be, and it's just an administrative thing, then we take them as we get them.
Well, it's required by Mass General Law. So 30B Section 12 requires it if it goes above 3 years. So it's required of us. I think on the positive side, the goal is to try to get a contract that's more economically efficient for the city. And the second thing is it also allows you to know about it beforehand. It allows you to get it out into the public beforehand. So, I mean, it's transparency. It's always a good thing. So I think, as the mayor said, I appreciate you doing the heavy lifting on it. Well, the lifting on it, but as long as I have approval, I'm just gonna process it the way I would as the job requires. But Mass General Law does require you guys to do it, so that's why it just feels like a pain sometimes to always send it out to you guys. So.
Any further questions, comments from the committee?
No, I think this is being very proactive, as when we went through the last budget process, the school department did say to expect a $1.2 million increase on transportation costs with the new bid going out. So planning does need to be done.
Yeah, that was the request, to get it done before the budget season. So my only worry is if you do it on November 6th, you have it due 12/12. You're going through the Thanksgiving break. The other idea was if you push it further, you're going through the Christmas break and the New Year's break. So do it beforehand and have that time to review. Last time we did the review in February. I think it was December to January. We did review in February, and we awarded it right before the world shut down. Actually, I think we had to we awarded it and then we had to look at it again before they could sign the contract. So.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we recommend item 11407 for recommendation to the full council for approval.
Second?
Motion made by Councillor Max, seconded by Councillor Donalowitz to recommend authorization to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you, Director Cormier.
Thank you, guys.
Item 11408, an order accepting the provisions of Section 5N of Chapter 59 of the General Laws to establish a veteran property tax work-off program. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
We have Director Hasselman here, and I don't know who wants to start, but I will let you go.
I'll start for this one. Thank you, Madam President. With the Healy tax cut law that was signed in late September last year, one of the new programs that was created in the Commonwealth was a veterans tax work-off program on a local option acceptance program. very similar to the senior tax work-off program that we've been operating here in Gardner since 2010. Now, there's a couple different things that I want to explain when we talk about this. And the first, just out front, I think this is a good idea for the city. I think it's in the best interest of the people who live here. It's obvious that costs aren't going down for anyone. But there's certain things that we've been trying to do to make things easier for our veteran population in the city. We, if you remember, last year passed accepted a provision of the general laws that I proposed to the city council, and thank you for your adoption of it, that waived property taxes at 100% for any of our Gold Star families that live in Gardner. There's an ordinance proposal that's before the city council right now that would waive parking meter fees for veterans who have certain specialty license plates, from Purple Hearts to Gold Stars, Bronze Stars, different commendations and things like that. This is the next step in our, quote, veterans package that we're looking at, making things easier for our veterans here in Gardner. And Gardner's always done a really good job at supporting our veteran population here. It mimics identically the senior tax work-off program that we have right now, where if you work a certain number of hours at minimum wage rate for the city on a volunteer basis, volunteer because you're not getting a paycheck, but in lieu of a paycheck, you're getting that equivalent amount deducted from your property tax bill. So minimum wage right now at $15 an hour, whatever 1,000 divided by 15 is, that's the number of hours that these individuals are capped at working. They may not work that full amount, but they could work that full amount to get that full $1,000 deduction. And what this does is just make it so that, one, it benefits the city in the fact that we're getting additional staffing work done. It's very particular work. The department's request, these are how many positions I could use, this is the work I'd like them to do, and then we assign individuals in that program off of that. But this would make it so that we could have up to 10 veterans positions in Gardner for up to $1,000 a year. A couple things with that is 10 is just because this is our first year doing it. We do have to allocate these positions on our revenue and expense side when we do the budget, because it is $10,000 that we aren't getting now in revenue that goes towards the general fund. But I think the cost is absolutely worth the benefit that's there for these individuals too. Plus adding an additional 10 staff members to do this work would be a lot more than $10,000 at the same time. So the benefit is both to the veteran population and to the city, hands down by far, for sure. The reason why we had capped the senior tax work-off program at 20 before is just because $20,000 was all we had budgeted for it. There are some things, just in the sake of transparency here. The state law for the senior tax work-off program, when the council votes to accept these programs, they also vote to set the cap. So if you'll notice in the vote document that you have before you, it sets the cap at $1,000 per year for veterans. Just like the vote that accepted the senior tax work-off program in 2010 voted to set the cap at $1,000 for people in the senior tax work-off program. The Healy tax cut bill did extend the option for seniors to go up to, I believe it's $2,500 for seniors and $1,500 for veterans. Because this is the first year in the veterans program, and because this is the first year we're expanding the program, we're proposing to keep that $1,000 limit right now rather than increase that, because we'd rather have an additional 10 people for the amount that it would cost us if we just increase the senior work-off program to what the law allows us to right now. But two, we also don't know how this application pool is gonna go. So just seeing how things are gonna go this first year, and then if we need to go back and revisit it at that time, we can look at it then. But this opens it up to 10 people for the same amount of cost it would have just to get us to the new point in the senior side of things. And if it goes good this first year, or maybe in the second year after that, maybe then we look at saying, do we go to the full $1,500 on the veterans end? Do we go to the full $2,500 on the senior end? Or do we stay with what we have and just open things up more to more people? And that's gonna be something that we evaluate as it's going, but this is just to get us started with the program.
Thank you for that, Director Asman.
Great, good morning.
Good morning.
So I did submit a letter just from our department saying that we think this is a benefit to the city and also to the community's veterans. At least once a month, if not more, probably even more than that, we have a veteran who comes in that is not at the senior age, who is potentially medically retired from service. They're marked unemployable based off of their disabilities, and they're living off of a set income just like a senior is, right? And they're still wanting to commit their service to something. And a lot of individuals, a lot of veterans love their community, right? We're ingrained, that's why we joined, is to defend that community that we live in. And this is just a way to support them and give them a way to support that community at minimal cost to the city, and we're also getting the benefit, right? Just like the mayor expressed, I mean, in my office, I could easily see us getting at least two volunteers to help us with just the mass amount of paperwork that we deal with on a daily basis, all the calls and influx of emails and everything that we deal with, just helping us manage that. Obviously, we just heard from the auditor. I'm sure he could use some help. HR could probably use some help. Everyone could use some help in the city. And a veteran is bringing in special skills, right? The training that they go through, the discipline that they learned. We know we're going to get the money's worth that isn't directly from the city too, right? And it's giving them a reason to stay in Gardner as well, right? It's a little cost to us to keep them in Gardner. Unfortunately, a lot of veterans are moving up to New Hampshire because taxes are different and everything, and this is just an incentive to keep them here and make them feel good about being in the city just that much longer.
Thank you. So your letter as well as the letter of support from Dr. Marchetti and the MVOC, I thought was, because you work directly with the veterans all the time, every day. I mean, you reach way outside of Gardner as well too, as well as MVOC right downtown. So I felt that really explained a lot of the benefit from that side of it. The mayor, I appreciate the explanation from the city side of it as well. It's kind of mutually beneficial, as we've said. I'm interested to see how the application process goes. I think it's great that she's worked with HR, considering it's like the same thing. Like, why reinvent the wheel? Let's just cater it to what we have. I think that was a great use of resources. And so I'm interested to see like what the application pool is and how that goes, because I think it's good to, we'll gather the data now, look at it again, see if we're gonna go from the 1,000 to 2,500, whatever, like see how that goes. I think it's smart to do that, and then we can look at it, reevaluate again in the future to see if any changes need to be made. But I think this is really exciting, and again, it's just another great it's a great asset to having the veteran services right here in the city that we do have, because we are a veterans friendly community for sure, and if anything, this is something that's going to enhance that even more. So I really appreciate, this getting put into play the way that it is. I think it's one thing to have it, but it's another thing to do it this way, where it's everybody's on the same page and, establishing a process to make it successful going forward. Thank you for all that info. Is there any questions, comments from the committee?
I just had a question for the mayor. First of all, it's a great program, and as is the VIP program, I think they're fabulous. When I was going through the Chapter 59 5N, is this only one exemption per household? Because it does not outline that. I couldn't find where it outlines that in here.
Yeah, so that's
so you couldn't have a veteran and then a spouse do it through the VIP program, because I'm just finding.
Correct. Yeah, that's there's a reference to like somewhere in Chapter 59, Section 5N. It references the other tax work-off program, and that says in there that it can only be one individual per household. Okay. So you can't have two people getting $2,000 for that same tax.
I wanted clarification on to make sure. But I think I think it's wonderful, because there are people that wouldn't qualify for because based on age, that this would be a wonderful opportunity for them.
And go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, if I may, that's another reason I think Amanda's doing the lottery system, and I think that's also a great idea. It's just widen the pool of who has been working here and who will work here in the future. And as she mentioned earlier, we'll have 10 slots for the veterans, and it just makes sense because we don't know who will apply, especially starting a new system. It's going to take some time for the residents to be aware of it, to fill that if that's the need that the city has.
Thank you.
There was
anything further?
No.
Go ahead.
Thank you. There was a small reduction in the senior side of things when minimum wage went up, because we kept the cap at $1,000, so that did reduce the number of hours that they had to work here. So that's another benefit to this program too, is that people didn't get as much, the departments here didn't see as much work. The people saw the same benefit because it was still $1,000. But this also then opens up the door to kind of make up for those hours that were lost when minimum wage was increased too.
Thank you. Anything further?
No, I know many people participate in this program, so 50% increase of people are going to be able to get in here to take part in a program like this. And as you spoke, it's great to extend it to veterans of any age. So, thank you.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to recommend passage of the order to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor John, seconded by Councilor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11409, a communication from the mayor regarding the certification of FY 2024 free cash. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. I did speak a little bit about this at the last council meeting. So this is our free cash. It's a little later than we got it last year. It was September 24th last year, but it's still probably the second earliest time that we've gotten free cash certified here. It's about $2.6 million. As the auditor referenced earlier, we are going back and forth with DOR on some of the things that they deduct from free cash to see if we can get that added back in, that $514,000. What it is if we have any outstanding liabilities on our books in terms of grant funding that hasn't come in yet by the time free cash is certified, in terms of payments that haven't been issued for bills that we've received, in terms of authorizations that haven't been fully completed and the funding received for yet. Those things there are then deducted from our free cash liability so that we have some type of pool that's there that if that comes up later on, that deduction that was there is now put back into place. And if we get that money mid-fiscal year, normally we get it added into our free cash in the next certification round. We are working on with DOR right now on seeing if we can get some of that back so that we can have that additional $514,000 put back in so we can utilize that in this fiscal year. If not, it'll fall to free cash next year. The free cash history, we are pretty on par with where we've been. 2019 and 2020 saw spikes in what we had in free cash. The reasons for that being is 2019, you'll notice 2018 was lower than usual. We had an insurance payment that we didn't get reimbursed for by our insurance company by the time free cash came in, so they deducted that as that liability, just like we just explained. We got it back in 2019, so that's why 2019 had that spike. In 2021, I believe, or 2020, one of the two had a spike in it because the school shut down during the COVID-19 pandemic. So a lot of that funding fell to free cash because the budget weren't used up to what they were budgeted for in expenses. And a lot of grant funding was plugged in to cover what we would normally use for expenses because the CARES Act was passed, and then the ESSER funds were put in place, and then there were other different school computer funds to make sure every student had a laptop. All of those covered a lot of expenses we would normally cover on our budgetary end of things. So that equates to that big bump in free cash that we had this year. But we're pretty much on par with where we've been. You've noticed that unlike usual years after free cash is certified, I normally put up a slew of free cash requests per our financial policies to stabilization, OPEB, road repair, different other items. The reason we haven't put those up yet is actually more work for the auditor if we put up free cash expenditures before the tax rate gets set and the tax recap sheet is certified, because and part of that process is to put in all of the financials that the city has, and one of those is free cash, and if free cash goes down, he has to go through and lower that and explain what it was put towards and where that money's going towards and how that's allocated in the budget. So it's just a cleaner process for the city as a whole financially and just for an auditor review of everything if we just wait to do that till after the tax hearing is done and the tax rate is set. And the recap sheet is submitted and certified. So we do plan on submitting certain free cash appropriations. However, with the insurance increases that we saw, with what we're planning on for snow and ice, with everything else that's coming down the pike, and knowing all of the expenses that we have coming up too with equipment breaking and things that need to be repaired and other grants that need matches and things like that, we're probably going to wait till later in the fiscal year after this first round of free cash that we first put up to get the other amounts of free cash put in place so that we can really get a clear picture of this is what we need right now, this is something that can be pushed off next year, so that we can have those extra budget items in our free cash appropriation, so that, you know, when health insurance goes over because of the new rates, because we didn't have those new rates when we set the new budget, we have that pool of money that's there. When snow and ice is done, we have that pool of money there. So I'd anticipate that you're going to have some appropriation requests submitted to you in December, and then probably not again until April. And that's probably going to have that buffer there just so we can have a better, more financial planning picture on our end. But I just want you to know where we are at free cash, what our history's been like, how this compares to other years. And the funding mainly came from local receipts. Free cash comes in from either revenue that came in over budget or expenses that came in under budget. About, I'd probably say 70 to 80% of our free cash allotment this year came in from revenue over budget, and that came from our local receipts. So that's motor vehicle excise taxes, different other specialty taxes, fines, fees, penalties. If you look at the budget document, there's a whole section on what local receipts is. Those came in well over budget. We try to plan for that ahead of time. We take the average of the last 3 years and then do 90% of that 3-year average when we are planning our budgetary revenue, knowing that it's likely gonna come in higher. But that's basically how we build free cash into the budget, because the Department of Revenue's recommendations is that your free cash certification be between 3 and 5% of your annual operating budget as a good practice. That way you're making sure your revenues, really, it's not so that you have the free cash at the end of the year, it's to make sure you have the revenue to fund your budget. And that you're not over guessing and really being overzealous in what your revenues are. And then if your revenues don't come in at what you guessed at, then you have to find a new way to pay for those expenses or cut other costs that's there. So really, that's why DOR says that your 3 and 5% is the healthy what you should be for free cash, because it meant you budgeted your revenues the right way. And we are within that 3 and 5% in this free cash appropriation here, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Questions, comments from the committee?
I don't have any, thank you for explaining it twice.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I would like to make a recommendation to the full council to place this communication on file.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Dunlap, seconded by Councilor Mack, to place the communication on file, to make a recommendation to place communication on file. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. Item 11410, a communication from the mayor regarding the certification of FY 2024 Enterprise Fund retained earnings. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. I really like the word retained earnings way better than free cash, just because I feel like it actually shows what the item is. Basically retained earnings is the free cash of an enterprise account, and it's retained earnings because the money that's put into that account can only go towards that account. I'll use golf course membership fees are what goes towards the golf course account. And retained earnings is really honestly revenue that came in over budget. Yes, in some cases it's expenses that came in under budget, but even if that expense came in under budget, it just goes back to the fund that's there too. Also included in retained earnings, different than free cash, is because this is an enterprise account, you know you have this much in the fund when the budget is set. If you only budget 80% of what's in the fund, that other 20% just automatically falls back into retained earnings at the end, because that money's basically a revolving account to fund that department that is run by that enterprise account. So we have a couple of enterprise accounts here in Gardner. We have water, sewer, golf, landfill closure, and solid waste. The solid waste you'll see is the lowest retained earnings that we have, besides from the landfill, because we don't take any money in at the landfill, and we actually supplement the landfill closure account with $75,000 of free cash every year for the next 30 years from the closure of the landfill. We have that schedule that'll come up when we do the free cash appropriation for that. So taking that aside, because there's no revenue coming into that account because of that, that's just the 30-year monitoring fees that we have on the capped landfill on West Street for the dump, for lack of a better term, not the sludge landfill, the actual landfill. That has to be monitored for a certain amount of time since the closure per DEP and EPA regulations. That's what's funding that program. Solid waste, you'll see, is the lowest that we have out of those. That's why we did that rate increase. Per the rate study that we do every so many years, we'll look at the rates that cover the trash contract that we have. Solid waste includes trash, the transfer station, and the recycling services that we offer for the city. So that should hopefully have some healthier free cash. That's the only one that didn't fall within that 3 to 5% range that we have. Water and sewer. Again, the sewer rates are a little bit on the lower side of that 3 to 5, but it fell in between there. But if you remember, we just had that sewer rate ordinance that we just had through. Again, we look at that every 5 years at our sewer rates and water rates that are there. So everything fell between the range that it's suggested that we fall into. And then when you add in the recent actions that we've taken to plan for this coming fiscal year, it should be healthier in next year's too. So we're in a good spot with all of our enterprise accounts. I will say, because we talked about different programs and projects that we're looking at, be it solar on the capped landfill, solar at the airport, even though that's not an enterprise account, just to throw that in there, solar at the golf course, different things like that. If those projects continue to move forward, there are state laws that say if revenue is generated on a site that's related to an enterprise account, the funding from that project goes into that enterprise account. So if there is solar put at the golf course, that money from the solar rent payment and any pilot payment and anything like that from those solar panels would go into the golf enterprise account, not into the general fund. Whereas if we have solar on City Hall's roof, that falls into the general fund, because this City Hall building is a general fund funded building. So there's different things like that we are looking at in the future with these, but that's the brief Cliff Notes financial rundown for the enterprise accounts and where we are and what got us our retained earnings this year.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Questions, comments from the committee?
Recommendation to the full council to place this communication on file.
Second?
Motion made by Councilor General, second by Councilor Mack to recommend to place the communication on file to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor General to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.